Hello, my name is Sarah Buchanan, and today we're going to be talking about the necessity of effectiveness and production in digital literacy. To start, we'll define some key terms necessary to understanding digital literacy. The term itself is defined in Zach Chase and Diana Laufenberg's article, Embracing the Squishiness of Digital Literacy. Chase and Laufenberg encourage us to accept digital literacy as a genre, a format, and a tool to be found within the domain of standard literacy. They believe digital literacy is simply reading and writing in a digital environment. And another key concept within digital literacy to be familiar with is the term digital natives. In the article Beneath the Digital Divide, Myth, Understanding Young Australians' Online Time Use, Jonathan Smith, Zlatko Skrbis, and Mark Western, the authors state that those born today are digital natives and members of a net generation who, in stark contrast to their parents, are surrounded by opportunities to engage in new technology-mediated forms of social participation. In short, or at least according to Chase and Laufenberg, it seems that digital literacy describes the ability to be literate in a digital environment, and digital natives, or the net generation, are younger people who have been born into a society predisposed for digital opportunities. These terms are important because, like with most things in rhetoric and composition, or at least theory, their definitions, especially in their relatively short history, have already shifted focus. Initial ideas regarding digital literacy centered on access to technology and internet, but as time and thus technology progressed, it's become quite evident that digital literacy is now the newest form of reading and writing in the 21st century. First, I will outline how the major concern behind digital literacy is no longer access, but the way in which we access content. That is to say, that we have access now more than ever, and digital literacy is no longer defined as simply reading and writing in a digital environment, as Chase and Laufenberg initially have us believe. It's about reading and writing effectively in the digital world. Furthermore, the best way to do this is to have students be producers of digital content rather than consumers. In her article, The Digital Imperative, Make the Case for a 21st Century Pedagogy, which was published in 2008, this date is interesting to me for several reasons that will be explained in just a bit. J. Elizabeth Clark states that we are in a new era of digital rhetoric where, more than ever before, people are becoming authors every day, constructing digital profiles, public commentary, and using publicly available resources to research and inform their opinions. Even though this article was published 8 years ago, Clark's encouragement of digital pedagogy foreshadows the impending influence and significance of digital media in society. Young students were already active at this time in a digital context. Again, this was in 2008 when Facebook was still only available to college students, and apps such as Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, Tumblr, and Yik Yak didn't exist yet. Clark reveals that traditional literacy needs to be replaced with a digital pedagogy for the benefits of students. She insists the traditional essayist literacy that still dominates composition classes is outmoded and needs to be replaced by an intentional pedagogy of digital rhetoric that emphasizes the civic importance of education, the cultural and social imperative of the now, and the cultural software that engages students in the interactivity, collaboration, ownership, authority, and malleability of text. Today, composition classrooms should immerse students in analyzing digital media and exploring a world beyond the classroom, and in crafting a digital persona and creating new and emerging definitions of civic literacy. Furthermore, Clark emphasizes that the current focus of multimodal composition is to help students build on traditional writing skills and translate them into skills in composing digital media. Even as early as 2008, Clark was able to detail the ways in which digital literacy benefits students. While Clark's call to action foreshadowed the future of rhetoric and composition and the adoption of digital pedagogy, simply being able to read and write in a digital environment is no longer adequate. It's become apparent, as Esther Hargitay discusses in her article, Digital Natives, Variations in Internet Skills and Uses Among Members of the Net Generation, that digital literacy is preoccupied with two diverging types of interactions. Hargitay notes, even once people cross the initial connectivity divide, numerous differences remain among them when it comes to how they incorporate the internet into their lives. Furthermore, she indicates that the internet itself isn't the most important aspect of digital literacy. It's the way in which the internet is used. Hargitay discusses the increasing availability of internet through government programs and believes that although increasing broadband access is a necessary step toward making sure that Americans from diverse backgrounds have the potential to take advantage of all that the Internet has to offer, such concerns no longer dominate discourse. People have access, but the things they're accessing depend on their education and the amount of access points they have. Hargitay reveals that after analyzing data from a national sample of Internet users, those with a college degree or more were more likely to seek health information, engage in financial transactions, research and look for job information, and get news than those with lower levels of education. In contrast, level of education was negatively correlated with online engagement in such activities as browsing just for fun, playing a game, or gambling online. This distinction in types of activity are classified as capital enhancing in the case of the former and recreational use in the case of the latter. These classifications are used to examine how a national sample of American young adults aged 18 to 16 incorporate Internet into everyday life. The results showed that education was positively associated with capital enhancing online activities. These findings suggest that Internet access may not, in and of itself, level the playing field when it comes to potential payoffs of being online. These findings do suggest that beyond basic access, quality of use context matters for how people incorporate the Internet into their everyday lives. Hargitay's data and analysis emphasize the importance of digital literacy in classrooms. As an access point, composition classes and resulting assignments get students to engage more with the Internet and technology, which, as previously mentioned, raises a student's potential of using the Internet as a capital enhancer. The more access and engagement they have, the more likely they are to use the Internet in beneficial ways. First-year composition courses offer this engagement. It's a contact zone, if you will, between students, the digital natives and net generation, and productive uses of the Internet. So it seems that the famous question, is Google making us stupid, can be answered, it's not Google itself, it's the way we're using Google. In the article, So-Called Digital Natives Not Media Savvy, New Study Shows by Sarah Perez in Read and Write, Perez reveals that a study done by Northwestern University discovered that college students have a decided lack of web savvy, especially when it comes to search engines and the ability to determine the credibility of search results. Perez says that a quarter of students in the survey, when assigned information-seeking tasks, said they chose a website because and only because it was the first search result. And only 10% of participants made mention of the site's author or that author's credentials. Thus, as Perez details, reading and writing in a digital environment aren't the only things at stake when we talk about digital literacy. Students have to know how to be more effective in such an environment. In the video, The Myth of Digital Literacy with Steve Piken, Piken interviews 4 professors from various universities in America and Canada about the myths of digital literacy. Andrea Lunsford, a professor at Stanford University, defends student writing. She's unsure whether students are writing better than ever, but she argues that the quality of students' writing when they're engaged in writing is definitely better. Furthermore, she believes we need to help students learn how to use sources and discriminate among them. We have to have ways to discriminate among sources. We can't have Google do it for us. Thus, as I previously stated, the primary goal of digital literacy is no longer just helping students read and write in just a digital environment, but helping them read and write effectively in a digital environment. For example, as Ryan Holiday shows in his article, The New Digital Divide, Privilege, Misinformation, and Outright BS in Modern Media, Holiday states, it takes time and energy to develop these skills and habits necessary to successfully derive value from today's media. Knowing how to tell a troll from a serious thinker, spotting link bait, understanding a meme, cross-checking articles against each other, even posting a comment to disagree. These are all skills. They may not feel like it, but they are. Furthermore, Holiday highlights that as mobile and broadband costs fall, the issue of access to the Internet diminishes, yet access to the digital world is not sufficient to bridge the divide. He questions whether the new digital divide is not about access, but about people who have the time, energy, and skills to develop new media literacy and those who don't. The limitation of physical access is no longer a concern, but rather the mental ability to assess what we're accessing is at stake, which also introduces the idea of consumption. In the same video about the myths of digital literacy as moderated by Piken, Nicole Pinkard, who teaches at the University of Chicago, Illinois, agrees with Haggerty's ideas about access and asserts that the 21st century won't be simplistically reduced to those who can and those who can't use technology. Instead, it'll be divided by those who produce and those who consume. Pinkard states that all digital natives can consume media, but not all can produce media. It's not about who has access, but who has the power to create the media. Clark was able to predict this in her 2008 article. She concluded that the focus of multimodal composition is to help students build on traditional writing skills and translate them into skills in composing digital media. Chase and Laufenberg, the very first article I mentioned, references the same idea. They reiterate that having access to technology is not the key. An inquiry-driven curriculum served by technology is critical. The difference may seem subtle, but is dramatically different from the perspective of the student. This version of education yields students that are skilled in consumption, evaluation, and creation of content. Indeed, in the TED Talk by Doug Belshaw titled The Essential Elements of Digital Literacies, Doug Belshaw, TED Talk, Warwick, Belshaw, a former teacher and current research analyst, encourages us to move beyond elegant consumption, a term implying what I've previously stated, the simple consumption of media. Belshaw believes that remixing is at the heart of digital literacy. He gives examples of memes such as Success Kid and shows that by taking an original piece of content, people can remix it and produce a different version. Belshaw notes that it's equally important for digital literacy to focus on people's interests, so there will be an intrinsic motivation and for people to develop those skills themselves. So it seems that at this moment, digital literacy is not concerned with the actual physical access to technology and internet, but rather the way we use our access. It's not enough to be able to use these technologies. We must use them effectively, and we must be able to discern between sources, analyze credibility, to deepen our understanding of whatever is on our screens at any given moment. Furthermore, we must be able to produce. It's not just enough to be able to interpret various forms of media and articles and contents. We have to be able to create and produce media. One common way to do this in popular media is remix, where students take something such as a picture and make it their own. Moreover, for digital literacy to result in good content, it's best for students to focus on their own interests in order to establish an intrinsic motivation so that what they're producing, in turn, will be successful in the digital realm. Digital literacy gives students the opportunity to evaluate, analyze, create, engage, and produce some of the most basic characteristics of rhetoric and composition, adjusted just slightly for the 21st century.